Hey, beauties. This is my favorite topic in the world. If you like talking about your intuition, your psychic senses, and what they can be used for, how you can activate them as a superpower, and how you can amplify yours because you're already very, very intuitive, like we're going to have a really good time talking about this tonight. So, hello, loves. Welcome. I would love for you to put into the chat, how confident are you in trusting your intuitive messages? Let's just put for today or in general on a scale of 1 to 10. Put it in the comments. I would just love to know. And let's say 0 is like you're not confident at all in trusting the intuitive messages that do come through. 10 is you would be shocked if, it wasn't accurate. 5 is somewhere in between that. So, your intuition, notice I'm saying like the intuitive messages that you're already receiving because you're getting them all the time. There's no one walking around on the planet who doesn't already have intuitive messages being shared with them. The question is, can you recognize them? Do you know what they are? Are you receiving them? Do you trust them? Do you have the clarity in your field to be able to recognize when it's an intuitive message, when it's fear speaking, when it's ego speaking, when it's programming speaking? Right? I just love to hear. So we got some 5s, we got some 6 to 7s, we got some 9s and 10s. All right. I love it. I think there's going to be something in this conversation for everyone. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Casey Knight, and I have been using my intuitive gifts to run my business, make lots of money, have tons of fun, and basically travel the cosmos and the inner realms with my clients and with lots of different groups for the last few years. And before that, we could go way back, all the way back to being a kid and having like incredible mystical experiences. Intuitive psychic abilities were turned on when I was a kid, and then I actually shut some of them down because I didn't know what was going on. So they scared me. I turned some of them off for a little while and then had to go through the process, in my 20s, late 20s, to like pry some of them back open, as I think many of us wind up doing. And then I have consistently worked on developing my psychic gifts, my clairs, my intuition, whatever you want to call it, and my trust in being able to use it, um, both personally and professionally, for the last, I would say, 15 years. So I feel like I have a lot that I can share in this realm. And I actually love nothing more than teaching people how to trust the messages that are already coming through for them because they're there. The question is always, are you open? Are you available? And do you have the discernment to know what they are? So I'm going to be sharing, like, I put 5 tips, but probably a whole lot more than that in this conversation tonight. And it's going to be important for everybody. Everybody needs to hear this stuff, right? Because your intuition is literally the thing that you need to marry with your intellect and your capacity for analysis, right? That intuition, I think this was the analysis hand. Analysis and intuition are 2 sides of the same coin that needs to all work together in cohesion and coherence for this whole brain integration. Basically, if you want to be a whole ass human and know how to make decisions, you have to be able to access your intuition and your analytical, logical reasoning skills, wield them together in this harmonious blend, and then you'll be able to make decisions that you can trust instantly or with a little bit of reflection, depending on how you're designed. And you'll also, if you are someone who wants to go this route or who already is perhaps a teacher, a healer, a coach, a facilitator, a card reader, you'll be able to follow the flow of energy and share intuitive messages with other people. So even if you're not wanting to be a coach, a healer, a teacher, a card reader, or whatever, like working with these gifts intentionally in service, unlocking and activating the next levels and layers of your intuition is still going to serve you more than anything could ever. In fact, the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies all talk about their intuitive gifts and their intuition. They have to make decisions all day long, and they don't have time to weigh everything out. And they also understand that human brains just can't they're not quantum computers. Well, they kind of are, but from our limited perspective and awareness and ability, they can't calculate everything like a machine could. And we can never really understand all the statistics, all the potential ramifications of certain things, consequences, projections. In fact, humans are notoriously bad at it. So they have to rely on their intuition, right, to make split-second decisions. They use, their gut, their heart, their intuitive senses. They just have a knowing. So regardless of what your career path is and who you are, activating or amplifying your intuition is like just so helpful, because you can live a life where you feel confident enough to move forward with things that are dropping in or that you're feeling, and you just go, okay, I'm going to follow this energy. I'm going to follow this. Yes, I'm going to follow this download. However, you feel your intuition, you can follow that and be led in the direction of your desires, your dreams, the soul alignment. Like, magic gets unlocked when we follow intuitive nudges. And if we stay in the realm of only logic, only analysis, only rational, reasonable, tangible things, we miss out on all that magic. So Rebecca's saying, I did ignore mine when I was young. I couldn't hear it. I could hear it, but I just didn't take action on it. Yeah, we all probably, I think, to some degree, have this experience of like having intuitive hits. And then we you might even not even call it intuition, but who hasn't had the experience of doing something that you're like, something's telling me I shouldn't do this, and you do it anyway, and they're like, I should have listened to myself. I think that is a human experience across the board. Everybody has that. Or you do something because you just feel like you should, doesn't make sense, and it works out, and you're like, oh, I knew it. I knew it. Even if it's as simple as like looking for a parking space in a place where there probably shouldn't be one, right? It doesn't have to be really big examples, but all humans have this intuition innately in them. And the thing about it is that it can be turned off, it can be shut down by trauma, mostly trauma, or our belief systems, our emotions, our feelings, basically by putting a shield up because we don't feel safe. And it can also be shut down just because we don't want to deal with it. And again, it's probably related to it not feeling safe. And it can also be coming through loud and clear, but we don't trust ourselves enough to act on it. We give our power away to someone else. Like, it can be as simple, again, and innocuous as the thought, I should bring an umbrella. Oh, but the forecast says there's only a 20% chance of rain. Like, if you don't bring that umbrella, you're going to regret it. So you might as well just listen to yourself, right? So I want to talk about amplifying your intuition, but what really we're doing is about creating more of a channel for you to be able to have your intuition flow through you, or for you to hear your intuitive senses from your body, from your heart, from your mind, wherever it feels like it's coming from for you, and you to have the self-trust and the confidence to actually act on it and do the things. And I give you a few of my favorite tips. But first, let's talk about that closed off sensation. If you've been in my world for any length of time, you know that I talk about, you can either be like with shields up, energetically closed off to everything because you don't feel safe, or you can be open and energy can flow through you. Guess which one is going to allow yourself to feel those intuitive messages, hear them, and have the confidence to actually act on them, right? We have to cultivate this safety for ourselves to be able to trust the messages. And I will share that this is a practice that you start with first for yourself. And then once you get good at it for you, you may want to start sharing those messages with others. whether it's in intuitive readings, if you are working with clients one on one, or even in groups, the more you open up your energetic shields and fields, the more you purify all the stuff that is, making you want to put up those shields. And we could talk more about that, but that could be dramas, stories, belief systems, stress, overwhelm, all of that stuff can make you shut it down. The more you purify your energy field, the more you become this really like a channel, a conduit for information or data to flow through the universe to you. There is constantly data streaming from the cosmos, from other people, from your highest self, from your luminous team, from guides. And so it's a practice to be able to hear it, feel it, like actually translate it properly without distortion, and then also share it with the world. So it is such an interesting position when you do open that channel. And I will say, I have opened mine to the point that in my one on one sessions with clients, like I will literally be speaking into what's happening in their energy field because we work with energy alchemy, we work with their team, and there will be all kinds of things happening in the field. And I will speak it out as a narrator, and my clients are like, that's exactly what I was seeing. That's exactly what I was feeling. And they'll be shocked. And I'm like, no, this is really happening. But I can see it, feel it, sense it, and translate it in a way like using my voice. I can share that with you. But I tell you, I had to take the leaps of faith to get to that place because sometimes what comes through doesn't make sense to me. And it's not going to make sense to you all the time because there's a lot of symbolism, especially if you're working with other people's energy fields. You might get stuff that has no meaning to you at all. And it's coming through you and your brain, your imagination, which is the interface between you and the energetic realms, is going to need to translate it in a way that you understand, and then you have to like speak into it in a way that you hope other people can understand. So again, there's practice that you get to do with this. But I've been in client sessions where I've had to go to the person, I'm like, so what's up with the slug? And they'll be like, I was just thinking of the slug that me and my grandma had this moment with in her garden, and her grandma's here with us in the energy field, or we were just talking about her. And I'm just like, okay, well, I'm glad that makes sense to you because what the heck is that? Having the courage, the balls to go, I'm seeing or feeling or knowing or tasting or touching whatever your intuition comes through as slug, and saying that out loud to a person, like there is a leap of faith that you have to have in order to do that. So if you are someone that is like wanting to step into this next level of sharing your gift, your intuitive gifts with the world, let me tell you how I got to that place where I felt like I could just be like, I'm seeing a slug, or like, what's up with this mermaid riding a horse? And then I'd be like, oh yeah, that's one of my guides. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad that makes sense to you because I've never seen that before. Right. And so many other small examples. So I've, I started working on this a very long time ago. And I've played with so many different practices, so many different techniques. And I've also helped my clients amplify their intuition so they can have more self trust, more confidence, more flow, more fun with just knowing, because it is fun to have these senses turned on and be able to use them. It's like having a cheat code for life. So, first off, before I even tell you the techniques, we should just have a very quick discussion on how people receive these messages, how they might be coming through in the body for you, just because I feel like some of you watching this might be having intuitive nudges that you don't even realize are coming through because you expect it to look or feel a certain way. So there are people that are very clairvoyant and they see something in their mind's eye, and it could be like a movie, it could be symbols. That's what people mostly think of when they think of a psychic, a clairvoyant that's like seeing stuff either with eyes closed in the mind's eye, sometimes in the mind's eye with eyes open, and even sometimes like almost like a hallucination with their open eyed. You can have that kind of clairvoyance too. There are people who hear more. And we think about that too, like hearing your guides' voices, the clair audience. But it can also come through, did you know this, in songs? So, like giving yourself permission if a song pops into your head to go, oh, I'm getting this song. It must have a meaning, and then pulling out the meaning because there's almost always a meaning to it if it's coming in when you're wanting to have some awareness or some knowledge. So it's sometimes something that you can physically hear, but just like you've got a mind's eye, you can also have a mind's ear, right? These senses are basically extensions of your regular senses. You can have clairgustance, which is clear tasting, and clairalience, which is like clear smelling, which would be psychically smelling or tasting things, which is it's not my number one thing, but it'll happen sometimes. And I'll be like, interesting. Interesting. I know some people though that have clair aliens as their primary intuitive sense, which is fascinating. Let me know if you're watching what you think yours is, because we also have clairsentience and claircognizance, right? And clairsentience and claircognizant were my two main ways of sensing and knowing energy. Clairsentience would be this feeling, like literally your senses, you're feeling in your body. And everybody has this. If you're not paying attention to how your body feels, then you are missing out on one of your most amazing access points into your intuition. How you feel in your body can tell you so much. You can feel tingling, hot, cold, but it could be expansive. It could be contracted. It could be, warm. It could be lost, spinny, like just any sensation in the body can be an intuitive message. You can also develop your intuition and energy work capacities to the point that you can proxy someone else's body and you're going to feel what's happening in their energy, in their body, in their field. I only do that with permission, of course. And you can feel that. You can feel it, and it can be even metaphoric. I'll be like, oh my gosh, what is the weight of the world on your shoulders here? Because I'll be like, oh, it's so heavy. Right? We can feel that. I also use my intuition and my ability to sense energy through clairsentience with other people to notice where there are energy blockages. Again, when we're in sessions, because I have their permission to enter their field for co-creating. So a lot of people have this activated without having these boundaries around it, and they're just like picking up everybody's stuff. That's no fun. So we're going to need to talk about that as well. Right, because you need to have energetic clarity and boundaries and this ability to discern self from not self and not always be feeling other people's stuff as yours. Okay, this is very important, especially if you want to amplify into being a someone who's using their intuition for others, right? Coaches, healers, card readers, people, psychics, right? You need to be able to know what's yours and what's theirs and not get it mixed up. Otherwise, you're going to have a whole host of problems. So you also have claircognizance. And I think a lot of people have this and don't know it. And this is where it's like, you just know. You just know. It's a thought, it's a download for me. And it is like a fully formed thought instead of an idea is something I've been like mulling over. And then all of a sudden, like I'll arrive at a thought. A download claircognizantly is like, it's just fully there, the whole thing. And I wasn't even thinking of it half the time. And it's just like, I have arrived. So for me, after 15, 20 years of actively working on developing my intuition, they all blend together. So it's like a synesthesia. Like I can feel the thought forms and the downloads, and I can like taste the hearing. Like it's just all one multi-dimensional, multi-sensorial package. And also that is common, and it's not, I don't want to say this. If you don't get that right now, you're not doing it wrong. It's just as you open up all of the pathways, it tends to all come online. And it's like you don't even notice if you're seeing, hearing, knowing. It's just like it just is. It's your multidimensional awareness. So we have people who just know things, who just hear things, who get the smells, who get the feels, right? Images, smells, feelings, seeing. A lot of us shut down the seeing as kids because it's scary, right? I know I had too many experiences with ghosties and things like that, and I'd be like, "This is scary, I don't wanna see," especially when my third eye started opening up to the multidimensional realm, and I'd see, like, all energy beings and stuff like that, and I was living alone in my 20s, and I was just like, "No, this is too much, I don't wanna see beings in my room," so I'd, like, shut her down, and then I was like, "Okay, actually, I'm gonna program it so I see beings, that I want to interact with, not everything, not just the shadow people and all of that. But really pry it back open with exercises and intention and clearing and all of that. Um, because that is the thing I wanted to go into next. In order to be able to access your intuition with that, clarity, we need to feel safe enough to feel it. And the safety starts with your body, right? It has to be your physical body. Your nervous system is attached to your brain, right? Like that's one system. If you ever see the creepy vision of like your nervous system in your brain, like detached from all the rest of your body, it's like a brain on all kinds of like pre-roots, basically, is what it looks like. So the nervous system needs to be in a rest and digest expression, feeling safe. If it feels like the parasympathetic nervous system, which is that fight or flight, is activated, we will put the shields up because you're not safe. And then physical body is going to clench up. It's not going to feel safe. It's going to be literally and physically taking away all of the blood and the energy from any systems that are not essential for you to like run away from a tiger, right? Run away from danger. In that state, you're basically getting prepared to run, right? The flight or fight with something. So you don't need your higher level reasoning on. You don't need all of these expensive processes, even like your immune system. They turn it all off and they're like focused on survival. So when you're in that state, you have the shield up energetically as well as the physical body being activated, ready to go. If you have intuition that's coming through at that time, it's going to be filtered through that lens, through that perception that you're not safe. So, are you going to be able to trust the messages? No, you're basically looking at everything through the like, oh my gosh, am I going to die? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to live? And so, intuition trying to come through from soul or spirit or from, the depths of your heart, because whether you go in or you go up or out, it's the same darn thing. You reach that same place. It's going to come through distorted from the shields if it comes through at all. If it even comes through as a truth, your perception of not feeling safe is going to go, can I even trust that? Is that my, is that actually my intuition? I don't even know. So if you are in a state where you don't feel like you can trust your intuition, heck, how does your body feel? Are you in this activated state where you don't feel safe and you want to like run away, or you are wanting to fight, or even worse, if you have a freeze or shutdown kind of response, then everything is really shut off and you're basically like on power saving mode, just trying to survive. So this is the absolute first thing that we need to look at. How is your nervous system? Are your energy shields closed and protecting you? Or are you able to be in a relaxed and open state, right? In order to be relaxed and open, we have to feel safe. And then you can connect with other people in that state. You can connect with all your luminous team, with, elementals, with Gaia, with your highest self, with aspects of different collectives, tellurics, all of those, the things that people want. They're like, I want to talk to my guides. I want to talk to the trees. I want to talk to the birds and the bees and the dogs and all of those things. If you're like been trying and it's not working, you got to check in with your body because that is how the information is processed through. Your nervous system processes through light, which is the data and the information, and it does that in a very multidimensional way. And then your imagination is the interpretation of that. And people say imagination like it's a bad thing. This is part of the mental realm that is required in order for you to make heads or tails of this energy, right? If it's non-physical, because it's a message that you're receiving that is from one of these clairs, you can't actually see it, taste it, touch it, smell it. It's coming in energetically. And so that imagination that you have is what is interpreting it to make sense to you. And just as an aside, your imagination is also how you access and work with these energetic realms. So that's really fun, right? If you want to do energy clearing, energy healing, you're literally using your imagination, not in the making stuff up way, but in the I am imagining it happening. And then that's how it is. It's like the joystick or controller to do things in the energetic realms. So tuning in to your body so that you can actually get the messages without distortion is absolutely essential. A tip that I have for myself, for all my clients and everybody I ever work with and everybody that I train, because I do teach this stuff inside many of my courses, it's create a bubble around you that I call sacred space, right? It's intentionally cultivating sometimes a little pocket dimension, if you know how to do that, or just even saying, like, I am creating a sacred space around me. And in that space, you can infuse whatever energy intentionally that you desire. And typically for me, I'll be like, let's bring in the team, the luminous team, right? That works with you or of my clients. And I just asked for them to arrive. And here's the thing, they're always there and you can always communicate with them. You don't have to be in a sacred space. But when I consciously cultivate a sacred space, it's an invitation for them to come forward. And in that way, because it's a free will planet and your team like wants to respect your independent spirit because you have one. If you're here on earth, you want to be independent, you want to do some stuff on your own, right? That's why you're not part of a collective species. They won't come and interfere the same way unless you're like, hey, let's have a chat. So opening sacred space to me is like basically taking a breath, relaxing the nervous system and saying like, hey, let's create this space where we can be connected. And I want to invite in my team, the people that might be helpful to work with. It can be ancestrals, it can be council members, guides, aspects of your multidimensional self. I like bringing in the elements. I love working with Gaia, the consciousness of this planet. I love bringing in whoever wants to arrive for the intention, right? If it's a card reading or an energy activation or clearing or healing, I'll be like, hey, who can help with this thing? And then we'll get specific people coming in to support and hold space. And sometimes pass through information to you, right? Thing about working with the sacred space and the team specifically is, well, there's a few things. But first off, getting the team's energy to hold space means that all the energy is amplified. And it is amplified because when we are working with, different beings, they can just amplify the energetic field. They can create a coherent field. They know how to do that. Like the people on your team are probably going to have some mastery over energy because they're from, like different levels and layers of you or from, other aspects, dimensions who are used to play with this kind of stuff. So if you can be like, hey, can I get a little help here to create a field where I can receive information and then I can share information with people if that's the intention, they're happy to help. Happy to help. And the other thing is they tend to be very benevolent and loving. And so often when I open a sacred space, all of a sudden I'm like, I feel supported. I feel connected. I feel safe. I feel like just aligned and secure. So my nervous system will go, and my client's nervous system will go, this feels good. And we take a bit of time. We might take some breaths. We might take a moment to really anchor in that energy. And then the other piece for me and for everyone is to really get in alignment and be connected to source, my highest self, through my body, through that vertical axis down the spine, right? So the spirit and the mind and the heart and the soul and all the way down into the earth are all aligned, because then you know that the information that's coming through is like from you, which I find, like, for me at least, this is how I love to work. When I want to receive information through this channel, So I'm not getting it from a grid or something outside of myself. If I'm telepathically communicating with another being, that feels different. And then I'm aware that I'm conversing with a guide, with somebody like that, right? With an elemental, and it feels different. It's a back and forth, and I'm receiving information like that. But I want to make sure that I'm not plugged in off kilter, receiving information from something that's not quite me, because it might be true, but it might not be true for me or for my client, right? So there are all these little bits and pieces of setting ourselves up for success that create and cultivate the safety, that open the channel and just make me feel like what is coming through is undistorted and true. Um, if I notice that there is any like resistance, any feeling off, then I'm not going to trust those messages, nor should I, nor should you. If you're feeling off, if you're feeling out of alignment, if you're feeling insecure, if you're feeling fearful, if you're feeling scared, if you're feeling activated in any way, I would doubt those messages. Not that they're not going to be true, but I don't think you should ever lean on them, rely on them, or be like, this is the gospel truth, unless you are super aligned with your own divine energy. And there is a feeling to it. And there's a practice that you get to do to really cultivate this for yourself. This is something that I do in my energy modality. This is something I teach my creation coaches. And I also even teach it inside my Oracle card reader certification program as well, how to create the sacred space. And I can teach that pretty easily and effortlessly, but then I make people practice it so they can really feel the difference. And everybody that I bring in there can feel the freaking difference. It's just this sense of being connected and aligned versus disconnected and off kilter, right? Like, how do you want your intuitive messages to be coming through for yourself? And if you're working with people, with clients. So if that's enough for you, if you're like, okay, I can do that. I can call in a sacred space. I know how to do it, either because I've learned it or I have been granted this download intuitively from just hearing me speak about it, go forth and do that. Like you don't have to ask for my permission or learn it. If you think you know how to do it, you can do it. And what I will just share with you is if you're like, I would love to learn this, I will share with you that the fastest, easiest place to learn it would be inside my Oracle card reader certification. I can leave a link. English is hard. Sometimes I just want to switch into light language. I can leave a link for you to explore that if you're interested. So, this is another thing that I absolutely love supporting people in doing to amplify their intuition. It's working with a card deck, such as the Elemental Forces of Creation Oracle card deck. And many of you that are watching have this, and you know this 90 card deck that works with the elements is a really easy in to getting really powerful intuitive messages because it points you in a direction that will open something up. And this is the other piece that I wanted to share is like you sometimes need, especially if you happen to be a generator or a manifesting generator, that we often as humans need to respond to something, right? Have you ever had that like, okay, I'm just gonna wait for a great idea to drop in, and there's like, you're like, all right, where's the idea? Like, come on, I need this idea for my business or for whatever. I need an idea. Where is it? And if you don't have something to respond off of, it just it's kind of empty. So we can practice expanding or amplifying our intuition and get really good at taking some kind of stimulus and responding to it with our intuition, especially if we do it in sacred space and practice with that. So these cards are basically ones I've been working with these concepts for, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 years. And the card deck is full of all of these concepts, but I can, let's say, pull a card. Let's say I'm giving you guys a collective reader, or I'm giving a reading with a client, or I'm even coaching a client, and I feel like I need something to respond to because like nothing's coming through. I can look at a card that says something simple like emotional awareness. And I can take a moment to feel that energy and If I trust myself to follow that, I can have something come through, drop in, or flow through me that is going to be specifically for the person I'm working with or specifically for myself instead of general, right? This card, emotional awareness, has so many potential meanings. W- When I've opened the sacred space and I've set the intention to be able to respond to something and pull through what is actually for you to hear, for me to hear, for the collective to hear, I'll be able to channel it through with trust because I'm feeling safe. I often will ask to like literally program my intention into any kind of work like this where I say, let me be a channel that can speak clearly and also be understood. Like I will literally say that out loud to program the field. But the emotional awareness card is also here right now to highlight for us that not only are we following the downloads, following the sensations in the body, but we also can follow the emotions, right? Being able to work with the flow of the energy that's moving through someone, that's moving through you, and also using that as an intuitive tool. A lot of people are annoyed by emotions, right? Because they can kind of get in the way. They can also be distortions, right? They can be literally getting in the way, but you can feel guidance and you can use your emotional awareness to follow the flow of what people are having in their field and in their system and you as well. And it can be a messenger, it can be a guide instead of just something that's like blocking you from really getting to the truth of it. So there's a lot that can be said for getting comfortable with feelings and emotions if you want to be a really powerful intuitive. If you want to be able to do readings for other people, especially. So, one of the teachings from the element of water, and this deck is actually made up of 5 different elements that make up the all that is. But water has this task for us, and that's to be clean and clear instead of being like a swampy mess, basically, like a soupy, swampy, really nasty, stagnant puddle. There's nothing wrong with feelings. We are human. Feelings are energy in motion. And if they don't flow through us, but rather get stuck in us, then they're going to be distorting things. They're going to be amplifying things that don't need to be amplified. They're going to be hiding other things that shouldn't be hidden, right? There's no clarity in that swamp where feelings are just trapped in the body or in people's fields. So, having a clean and clear emotional current is really powerful to amplify your intuition. That means you do all the healing and clearing work that you need to get into a state where you're basically neutral all of the time. I would say that this is the most powerful state to be in because if you're always running with like a baseline of, I don't know, anger, frustration, meh, right? Like that kind of thing, sadness even, it's difficult for the intuitive messages to be witnessed, to be noticed, to be felt, to be seen, to be heard in a constant state of like the emotions being in your body. Ideally, running that neutral state will allow an emotion to basically come through and be felt and not get stuck in you. And then it'll leave. We don't get trapped in the feelings. We let them run through us, right? This is why the energy needs to be in motion. And if that is the state that you have practiced getting into, this is something that needs constant cultivation, by the way. It's not a one and done. You have to like do this by doing again all your healing work, your shadow work, whatever it is, and then daily as emotions come up, letting yourself feel them instead of shoving them way down and then letting them run through you and letting them be your guide. Practicing that, be like, anger is present. What's making me angry? Okay, do I need to do something about that? Can it spur me into action? Can it spur you into action? Right. So, if you can get into that place of being a clear channel, if an emotion is coming through for you or for someone else, you can then follow that and let it guide you into what needs to be healed, what needs to be cleared, what actions need to be taken, and what needs to be illuminated and known, right? It's not a bad thing to have feelings. We just don't want the feelings to be stuck inside us or anyone, because that's not how they're supposed to exist. They're supposed to have a wave, have a flow. So, this is another tip. If you are finding yourself in a constant state of, you know, rumination on a feeling, it's looking to where that might be blocked. Are you not fully feeling it, fully expressing it? Or perhaps are there belief systems that are keeping that like circulating in your body, right? If you have a belief in the mind that is causing you to feel a certain way, maybe you can't just feel the feeling away. You might need to shift the belief that's causing you to feel that way. And what would be a clear example? If you have a belief that makes you feel like uh, life is really unfair, that's a general belief. And it's even more unfair in your family, right? Just not fair. You are probably going to feel feelings around that: frustration, anger, sadness, because you're not getting what you want, right? You're not, doesn't feel good when things feel unfair. So that belief system is reinforcing the emotion inside of you, and it is actually hindering your capacity to be intuitive, because the belief system is creating this cascade effect in your body of hormones and everything. And it's creating a lot of noise, a lot of energy that is stuck in you, and it's looping, and it's just in the way of being a clear channel. So sometimes we need to work on the mental realm. Sometimes we need to consciously examine the beliefs that we're holding about life, about what is possible, about who we are, about how the world works, and really examine them without judgment, right? Because all of the beliefs have been installed there by us or by other people, usually well intentioned, to keep us safe, to keep us alive, right? Or just from other people because that's what they knew. So we don't want to judge it. And it probably served us in the past to get something, to do something, to survive, whatever it happens to be. But we can go, this is actually helping me in this now moment. Is it helping me do what I want to do? And if it's not, then we can lovingly, with gratitude, release it, or at least with neutrality. There's tools that you can use to do that. There's tools like belief repatterning and tapping and breath work and journaling, that can help you move these belief systems and restructure the neural pathways of your brain. The more you can consciously examine every thought that's showing up in your mind and choosing whether or not it's helping you be uh, more full of trust, more confident, more intuitive, really, more, you know, happy, abundant, all of it. And if they're not, you get to choose if you want to keep it or not, right? A lot of this stuff is subconscious though. So it is helpful to work with somebody who can support that. So that's another tip that I have for you. If you're wanting to amplify your intuition, honestly, one of the fastest ways for me to have expanded it was to work with guides, coaches, and healers who could show me my shadow shit, like, and illuminate for me belief systems that I didn't even know I held, places where I didn't even know I was playing the victim, worries that I was looping in that were keeping me stuck, that were distorting me from actually hearing, what was for me, what I was supposed to be doing. So there is this element of purifying on the emotional level and the mental level to get rid of all the stuff that's not you. And there's a lot more that I could say about that. If you've got questions, if you've got comments about that, let me know. But this mental aspect of it, man, I could do whole days on just talking about the mental aspect of all of this. And I think it would actually be really powerful. So we'll pin that for next time. But ultimately, it is like, how clear are you, and what kind of thoughts are you thinking about your intuition and your gifts, and what are you feeling about them, right? There gets to be a level of trust and safety that you have to cultivate for you first if you want to be a better card reader, if you want to be able to respond to anything, respond to a client, or even respond to a card without perhaps being triggered or pulling through distortions and stuff like that. And this is so fun. Oh, I was like, I'll pull another card. And you know what? It's perfect because these cards are always freaking perfect. You can get them at elementalmanifestation.com, by the way. And the upgrade to the card reader course, if you want to get the deck for free, is there. But like, power to stand on your own and create your own reality, removing other people's belief systems, removing your triggers, in responses to other things. This power to stand on your own, to me, is showing up as being like a sturdy oak tree, basically. This doesn't mean you don't work in co-creation, okay? It just means that you are a sovereign being who is in your own clean and clear energy field, who can co-create from that place instead of being codependent. So I don't know who needed to hear that, but if you are playing in games of victimhood or codependence, your intuition is going to be shit. Well, I'm just going to be real with you. It's not going to work very well. If you are constantly feeling really intense emotions and you don't have any moments of stillness or clarity, that also is creating a lot of noise in the field. And especially at first, when you're working on being able to listen and hear and trust your intuition, it is really important to cultivate times of stillness and enough space for that. So, this is the final thing that I wanted to talk about tonight. It is just how the intuition shows up for us is oftentimes pretty subtle at first until you get really good at honing in and noticing and knowing how the messages come through for you. So, if you want to amplify the intuition and your trust in it, actually create the time to sit in stillness, to just be, to quiet your mind. And this is easier said than done. I get that. It's easier said than done. Our minds can be very busy. We can be full of emotions. We can be very busy, and we can also be constantly consuming information and never be alone with our thoughts. Never be alone in our own energy because we're always watching a show or listening to a podcast, taking a class. We're always with other people. If you want to actually get good at this stuff, like to the next level, to wherever you are right now, you want to expand it, spend more time cultivating stillness. If that's really hard for you, you might need to move a bunch of energy first. You might need to do some healing first. You might need to work with your nervous system and release traumas and work with professionals to release trauma if that's where you're at. Or you might just need to move energy, as in moving creative energy, moving sexual energy, moving physical energy by dancing, sweating, singing, breathing, doing something to make space in your body, in your mind, in your heart, in your soul. Make space, and then try going into stillness and contemplation. Okay. If meditation is really hard for you, you might need to move a whole bunch of energy first. You might need to exhaust yourself. You might need to come to that point where you're like, and then you just like starfish. Right? And then you're like, and there's a reason why so many people get these cool intuitive downloads, or like speak with God, or have a breakthrough, or talk to a guide, or have a great idea after they've spent time like bawling on the bathroom floor, because that moves a hell of a lot of energy. And then it's in that stillness and spaciousness that the ideas, the connections, all of that comes through. So you can do it from a breakdown, right? After you've just like cried and cried and cried and cried. Or you can use your tools and you can cultivate that spaciousness and make time, create time daily if you can. It'd be sitting in stillness and just meditating and like, watching what comes through. Great ideas can come through like that. But it could also be through something that includes a movement. A lot of people find that they can have the best intuitive downloads coming through channeling while they're writing, while they're dancing, while they're walking, or while they're speaking, whether alone or with a client, right? You're going to find what works for you. Just like we all have different strengths with intuitive senses and how the messages come through, there's also different strengths in how the messages can like come out of you and like even land in you. And You can play with them all. But if you're not making at least 5 to 10 to 30 minutes a day for you to be in quiet contemplation, in stillness, in meditation, or with some movement, but where you're not, when you're on a walk, where you're freaking not listening to anything, but you're just with yourself, it's in those spaces that you can really start to have more of these intuitive things come through. And if you're already adept, like, can you make more space? Can you get even more still? And space is important because there are some downloads that are so big, that they literally don't have room to land unless you create enough energetic and physical space. When I was downloading or preparing to download how to teach my energy alchemy modality in a group setting, I had to let go of like programs, courses. I couldn't launch anything and I couldn't do anything. And I just had to like be in stillness. And it was really uncomfortable. But then I felt my energy field expanding. And this is like, took like a month, at least a couple weeks for this to happen. Like a month. I had to cleanse and clear my physical body. I had to like really let everything spread out. And then the whole thing dropped in fully formed. And I was like, okay, here we are. And I needed to download something bigger than I had ever downloaded before. I needed more space than I'd ever had in my life. Sometimes that's how it works. I was only able to trust spirit and whatever source, my highest self telling me to let go of everything because I needed to, because I had spent so much time practicing listening to my intuition in small ways. So I want you to walk away from our conversation today with actions that you can take. Actions like working on, sorry, my family is home. I hope they're not super loud. So, working to calm your nervous system and make space in the mental realm, the physical realm, and the emotional realm, and really like, cultivating that space, but also working in the sacred space, not doing it alone, really connecting with the team that's around you to get them to amplify things and aligning to your highest self, your source, and be in your own field, but like with your guys, with your team, the people that are the people, the beings, the energies that are here to help you with all of this, because you don't have to do it alone. And then it's just freaking practice. Start discerning your energy field. Is it closed? Or you got your shields up? Or is it open and relaxed? And then freaking practice. Practice in the stillness. Practice speaking the weird things that come through. Practice playing with what would it look like if I trusted that? What would it look like if I said that out loud? Cultivating enough inner safety for yourself. And then practicing responding to things as well from that clear and clean state. I feel like to anchor this all in, I want to just pull one final card for you. And again, these cards, they're always freaking perfect. And the card is growth. So whether you're a noob, just learning how to listen to your intuition, or if you are ready to receive the downloads of your life and activate your multidimensional psychic intuitive abilities so you can speak with galactic collectives, like do these practices and allow yourself to grow into them. Don't have these expectations that it's just going to happen instantly. If it did, you couldn't freaking handle it. I promise. Y'all should want to shut it down. Right? It would be too much. You would feel like you were going freaking crazy. So this is the other thing, right? The difference between a psychic and intuitive person and someone who is like schizophrenic or having a psychotic break is not necessarily the information that they're tapping into and receiving intuitively. It is their level of embodiment and their clarity inside their energy field and their capacity to run the energy through them instead of it getting all like sticky and crazy. It has to do with how open and clear everything, including your heart and your lower energy centers are. Because if they're blocked and the energy can't come all the way through you and ground into the earth, it's actually going to short circuit you. So this is something to be aware of, not to fear, but you want to cultivate the nervous system, the emotional and the mental and physical spaciousness for energies to flow so that you can safely expand and grow into these next levels of intuition. If you don't do the physical and the emotional and the mental work that you need to do, and you're like, I'm going to pry my third eye wide open, you're going to have a bad time. That's how it works. So I want to encourage you to do this safely. And that's also why I love working in sacred space, right? To have the guidance from these beautiful ones that have your best interests at heart, right? If you want to learn how, I think, like I said, the easiest place where I have this information available to you in a self study form is in my elemental card reader course, which you can find at elementalmanifestation.com as a sort of a secondary piece that you can add on after you buy the cards. Or you can go to elementalmanifestation.com/card reader and just get the course all in one space. We talk about clearing all of the realms. We talk about creating sacred space and receiving the messages, and also how to create a business out of offering these elemental readings with really simple business systems. So you can actually use your spiritual gifts and help other people. And the way that I teach people to read cards, by the way, is not just like giving a psychic intuitive reading. It's about cultivating a place where you guys are co-creating with spirit, with the elements, and with the people that are in your space, and you're doing it together. It's not just like calling a psychic hotline. You don't have to be a psychic to actually even take this course. That will open up everything through you, and you'll just activate so much magic. When you learn how to channel the elements, by the way, you can access the wisdom of the unified field and the all that is. So, this is, we didn't even really touch on that, but yeah, working with earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, which are all real elementals that can really actually communicate with you and give you the wisdom of the universe. Like, you can bring through really cool stuff for yourself and for other people. And the course is an initiation into being an elemental wisdom keeper and a speaker and an oracle and a channel for these mysteries to come through into the world. So I love being a guardian of this magic and supporting people in activating it for themselves so they can ripple it out, because it teaches you everything you need to know about everything, basically all the things that you already know, but you don't have words for. And like, they're always so simple, but yet insanely profound. So if you're feeling the call to work with the elements, that's your easiest way in. If you are feeling the call to amplify your intuition, take care of all levels and layers of yourself, body, mind, heart, and soul. It all has to function together in a harmonic, coherent way. Otherwise, it's it's not going to work the same. So I hope that I've shared some things that you can try on right away to really amplify whatever intuitive messages that you're getting. If you've got questions about any of this, please leave them below. I'm happy to answer them. And I just want you to know that when you really cultivate the capacity through practice and through actually failing and like not listening to your intuition and then using that as evidence to like to make sure that you listen next time, when you practice it, you can wind up living this life where you feel like there's this flow to it and this magic because you're brought information and opportunities and places and to people and things like connections and all of the magic that you wouldn't if you were living in life where you're like maybe getting the messages, but they're bouncing off of you because you are just mired in that energy of not feeling safe. Your intuition's closed off and you're just, bleh, right? Spinning. So, my goal for everyone is to be able to experience this. This is part of what I call the luminous evolution. It's a big part of what my brand is about, helping you make enough space for your soul to come through and like actually co-create with you and then perhaps teach others to do the same. So, thank you all for playing with me here. And I'm just going to say goodnight and we'll talk soon.